Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest all-new edition of the Milford Informer. I am Tim Coet. It is our first edition of the show for the month of March. It is amazing how quickly time flies. We're just 9 days away from the start of daylight savings, and we're just a little over 2 weeks away from the official first day of spring. Now, while we're all eager for those signs of spring, all eyes have continued to be on Milford's winter sports teams, particularly the boys and girls basketball teams. The community has been swept up in playoff fever, and we've been along for the ride covering all of the action, so we're set to put all other news aside this week to bring you a special playoff edition of the Milford Informer. Let's set the table by showing you tonight's top stories rundown. Tonight, we dedicate the Milford Informer to the 2017 MIAA basketball playoffs. First, we take you inside Marlboro High School for highlights of the boys' first-round matchup against the 8th-seeded Panthers. Then we stick with our coverage from Marlboro as we let you know how the Milford girls fared in their opening round contest against Marlboro this past Tuesday. And later on in the show, we go deeper into the playoffs with the boys as they looked to topple top-seeded Neshoba in the quarterfinal round on Thursday night. Last Friday, we updated you on where both of the Milford basketball teams landed in their respective MIAA tournament brackets. As it turned out, both the boys and girls teams drew the Marlboro Panthers in their round one matchups. Tournament play opened up this past Monday night with the boys teams as the number 9 seeded Scarlet Hawks traveled to Marlboro to take on the number 8 seeded Panthers. Here now are the full playoff highlights. The city of Marlboro became the center of the basketball universe earlier this week as Marlboro High School played host to back-to-back nights of playoff action. Night 1 would be the boys' teams as the number 9 seeded Scarlet Hawks took on the 8 seeded Marlboro Panthers. Milford hoped to get off to a hot start to help settle into this tough road matchup. Off the opening possession of the game, Zach Tamani would generate a turnover. He'd look to convert it to points on the other end, but the 6'9" Marlboro star Chris Doherty had other ideas as he swats Tamani's shot clear off the court. Marlboro would ultimately get the opening points of the game, but Milford would immediately respond, with the captain Anthony Arcudi finding his stroke from beyond the arc to push Milford in front. Marlboro would have a few sharpshooters of their own in this matchup, including senior captain João Mendez, who knocks down a 3 from the corner to make it a 4-point Marlboro lead. Then it's the captain Luke Capadona who drops in a long 3 to extend the Panthers' lead to 9 with just over 2 minutes to go in the first. Both teams' offenses would stay hot into those closing seconds of the period. Cosquet will bring it back up the floor. The shot clock turned off. And now here's Arcudi. He puts up the 3. That's a second three-pointer made by Arcudi in the quarter, and Milford now gets the steal off the inbounds, but Marlboro able to recover. 3 seconds to go. It's Capadona. Now they swing it to Doherty as time expires, and they will count the basket. The Marlboro lead would stand at 8 into the second quarter. Caden Kelly would try his luck with a jump shot, but it would be no good, and then Milford would be just a step slow getting back defensively, and that allowed for the easy layup from Mendez to make it a double-digit Panther lead. With just over 5 minutes remaining in the half, and Milford trailing by 13, it would be Arcudi who would step up. The senior would deliver 5 quick points for the Scarlet Hawks to chip into the deficit. Some late free throws would send the lead back to 10 for the Panthers, and Milford would have just over 6 seconds remaining to give themselves some life heading into the break. 37-27, final 3 seconds. They set it up for Davila, a good look, and Kelly able to tip it in at the buzzer. Davila misses it, but Kelly timed the leap perfectly, tapped it in as time expires in the half, and that allows the Scarlet Hawks to go into the locker room with some momentum. A very nice play from Caden Kelly. Entering into the second half, Marlboro would give their big man an early look, but Doherty misses the shot. Alex Masick is able to direct the loose ball ahead to Arcudi, who gets the shot and the foul, getting he and his teammates pumped up. As the third quarter went on, Milford would struggle to keep track of Marlboro's João Mendez. Twice he would break loose on inbounds pass plays, resulting in a pair of 3-pointers. Here's a wild exchange later in the third. Tamani is able to slash to the basket, floating the shot over the reach of Doherty and in.
But Chris Doherty would quickly respond, taking the pass on the other side of the floor, and he would slam it home. Marlboro would outscore Milford 12-5 over the final 4 minutes of the third quarter, and so Milford would enter into the fourth facing an uphill climb, trailing 55-43. Junior Shane Cosquet would give Milford a quick boost to open up the fourth. He'd step in front of the Capadona pass and he'd take it to the basket for 2 quick points. Still in the opening minute, Arcudi would shake loose and he'd hit his 4th three-pointer of the night to bring the deficit down to 9. But Milford would continue to struggle with the imposing presence of Doherty. With 5.5 minutes to go, the junior gets his 2nd slam dunk of the night, and it looked like Milford's hopes were just about lost, but you simply cannot count out this Scarlet Hawks team.
16 seconds on the shot clock as Kelly tries to back his way in, and he gets the shot to fall as Doherty is called for the foul. And Kelly, 5 for 5 from the stripe so far tonight, cuts the deficit to 6. Milford would love to see their outside shooting spring to life here. They put it in the hands of Arcudi from 3, and he nails it! And just like that, Anthony Arcudi brings the deficit down to 3. It's a 1-possession game with 2:53 to go. A timeout called on the floor. We have a basketball game here in the closing seconds of the fourth quarter. A double clutch from the free throw line now. The ball knocked free by Masick. He gets the steal. Milford with the ball. A chance to tie it or take the lead. Under 2 minutes to go as Tamani takes a tough feed inside to the basket. He gets the shot and a chance from the free throw line to take the lead. Zach Tamani with a clutch bucket to tie this game at 63.
Milford erases a massive fourth quarter deficit to take the lead with less than 2 minutes to play. Marlboro would pull themselves off the mat with a crucial 3 from Capadona, but Milford would knot the score back up at 66, and despite both teams having a chance to win it in the final seconds, the score would remain tied at the end of regulation, sending this epic playoff battle into overtime. The Panthers would grab the first overtime point from the free throw line, but Milford would respond as Caden Kelly puts up the off-balance shot over Doherty and in to make it a 68-67 score in favor of Milford. With just over 3 minutes to play in OT, Capadona would miss on the layup. Caden Kelly would grab the rebound and watch Chris Doherty reach in to try to pry the ball loose. Doherty would get whistled for his 5th foul, and that would be the night. Marlboro would face the final 3 minutes of overtime without their biggest weapon. With Doherty off the floor, Milford was able to be more aggressive in the paint. Here Cosquet gets the transition layup to push Milford's lead to 4. With their backs up against the wall, the Panthers would respond with consecutive turnovers. Luke Capadona would come through with 4 points off of those turnovers, and once again the game would be tied with just over 90 seconds left in OT. But the Hawks would simply not be denied on this night. Caden Kelly, without Doherty on the floor, would clean up in the paint, gathering 4 of his 18 points in the final minute and a half of play. Each of Milford's captains would step to the forefront in the closing seconds, and when the dust settled, it was the Milford Scarlet Hawks, after overcoming a 13-point fourth quarter deficit, who would emerge with a playoff victory for the ages. The Hawks move on in the tournament as they defeat Marlboro in overtime by a final score of 78-73. It was an amazing playoff atmosphere in the Marlboro Fieldhouse, with Milford fans showing up in huge numbers. Those fans were rewarded with a truly memorable playoff win for Milford, their first win in the playoffs since claiming a district title back in 2013. We'll get back to the boys a little bit later. In the meantime, the Milford girls were hoping to create some playoff magic of their own inside the Marlboro Fieldhouse. The 11th seeded Lady Hawks took to the floor just 24 hours after the boys' big win. Would we see another huge road victory for a Milford team? Let's go back to the highlights. Just 24 hours after the boys shocked Marlboro with their thrilling OT win, the Milford girls basketball team returned to the scene of the crime, looking to provide a worthy follow-up performance. Standing in Milford's way was the number 6 seeded Lady Panthers, led by their standout senior captain Jill Petrie, who entered the night just 21 points shy of 1,000 for her high school career. Milford showed excellent defense on the opening possession, forcing Marlborough to toss up a contested shot as the shot clock expired, but the Panthers were able to get the offensive rebound, and eventually the ball ended up in the hands of junior Sarah Popovchak, who hits the three, allowing her team to take the first lead. It would be a 6-0 Marlborough lead midway through the opening quarter before Kate Irwin would free herself for a shot a few steps inside the arc, and the two-point shot would finally get Milford on the scoreboard. Unfortunately for Milford, that would be the only points they would put up in the first. Marlborough's aggressive defense would lead to a flurry of Milford turnovers, and the Panthers' offense would be just as effective. Sophomore Haley McCabe would lead the way with 7 first-quarter points, as her Lady Panthers would find themselves comfortably in front by a score of 16-2 after the opening quarter. Milford was desperate for a spark on the offensive side of the floor as the second quarter began. It would be Jess Tommaso who would provide that spark, knocking down a corner three off the opening possession of the period. A minute later, Jess would call for the pass at the top of the key, and she'd make it back-to-back three-point buckets to quickly trim the deficit to 8 points. After Tommaso got things started, the rest of her teammates would follow suit. Here it's the captain, Jill Burley, who is able to split a pair of defenders as she takes the ball all the way to the hoop to bring Milford's point total into double digits. Then Jill would try her luck from outside with less than 2.5 minutes to play in the half and watch the ball bounce straight up in the air and in to cut it to a 2-possession game. Defensively, Milford was able to hold the Panthers to just 3 points over the first 6 minutes, but with halftime drawing near, Marlborough would regroup. The Panthers would go on a quick 8-1 run in the closing seconds, including this buzzer-beating deep three-ball from Haley McCabe, and that would allow Marlborough to head into halftime with a 13-point lead. After 2 quarters, it was surprising to look at the score sheet and see the 2 star players, Irwin and Petrie, with just 7 points combined. Irwin would have the ball to open the second half, but she would turn it over, and as the Panthers took the ball up the floor, they would eventually find Jill Petrie, who would lay it in for 2. It was Petrie's first points from the field, but they would not be her last. After yet another Lady Hawks turnover, Petrie would take the pass all alone in the paint, and she'd end up with the shot and the foul. She'd convert the three-point play to make it a 19-point Marlborough lead. Things would continue to get worse for Milford, as this shot from Petrie with 5 minutes to go in the third would expand the Panthers' lead all the way out to 22 points. With Milford in danger of falling completely out of the matchup, Jess Tommaso would once again step into the spotlight. Jess's aggressive play inside over the later stages of the third would lead to a series of trips to the free throw line, where the junior would go 7 for 8 to help breathe some life back into the Milford offense. Jess would score 11 of her 17 points in the third quarter, but by the end of the period, Milford would find themselves staring up at an 18-point deficit with just 8 minutes to go in the game. The Milford boys basketball team was in the house showing their support, and with just over 5 minutes to go in the game, the girls started to channel some of the boys' comeback magic. Kate Irwin, after suffering through 3+ quarters of frustration, would knock down her first 3 of the night with 4.5 minutes to go in the game, bringing the deficit down to 12. Irwin would hit a couple of free throws a few minutes later, but Milford would still find themselves in a double-digit hole with just 2.5 minutes left. After Milford forced a turnover, Irwin would take it up the floor, where the ball would eventually find its way into Burley's hands, and she'd connect on a 3 to cut the deficit to 7. More good work from the captains here, as this time it's Dahlgren hoisting up the 3 to keep it a 7-point margin as the clock ticked down to the final minute. It was absolute maximum effort for Milford in the closing seconds. Here, Kate banks in a deep 3 to cut the once 22-point Panther lead down to just 4. Milford would outscore Marlborough 24-11 in the fourth quarter, but sadly the comeback would fall just short. The Marlborough Lady Panthers would hold on to defeat Milford by a final score of 60-55, as the Milford season would come to an end in the Marlborough Fieldhouse. A resilient fourth quarter performance for the girls nearly led to another dramatic comeback win. Unfortunately, the comeback fell just short, and the season came to an end for the Lady Hawks. We want to congratulate the girls on a successful season. We also want to recognize Brianna Croto, Emma Liskoff, Jill Burley, Christine Pye, and Nicole Dahlgren for all of their hard work over their 4-year athletic careers. Those 5 seniors served as the backbone of a Lady Hawks program that has made steady progress over the years, culminating with the team's first playoff appearance in 5 years. Now, while the season came to a close for the girls' team, the boys remained very much alive in their playoff bracket. Coming off of their electrifying playoff win on Monday, the team had a couple of days to get back on the practice court to prepare for a showdown with the #1 seed in the D2 Central bracket. That #1 seeded team was the Neshoba Regional High School Chieftains. Milford traveled to Neshoba on Thursday night, and once again we were fortunate to be able to follow the team. Here are the highlights from the D2 Central quarterfinals. After back-to-back nights in Marlborough, the playoff scene shifted to Bolton, Massachusetts, as the Milford boys were on the road once again, this time taking on the #1 seeded Neshoba Chieftains. Milford would face a staunch Neshoba defense that held opposing teams to just 47 points per game through the regular season. It was a capacity crowd in the cozy confines of the Neshoba gym, with both the Chieftain fans and the Jungle showing up in tremendous numbers. Off the opening possession of the night, Milford would show good defense, but with the shot clock winding down, Neshoba captain Justin Pierce would put up a deep three-point attempt that would fall through to put the home team on the board first. Less than a minute later, we would see an exchange that would prove to be a sign of things to come for the first half. Neshoba would look for the inside pass, but Caden Kelly would get his hands on it for the steal. Zach Tamani would then take the ball the other way, but he'd lose the dribble, and Neshoba would steal it right back. Later in the quarter, with the score 3-1, Neshoba's Nate Mansour would miss on an easy layup attempt. As Milford pushed the ball up the floor, Tamani would deliver a perfect pass to Nate Davila, and the Milford sniper would drain the bucket to give the Hawks their first lead of the night. Again, Milford would look to get ahead in transition here with Anthony Arcudi driving to the basket. He couldn't connect on the up and under shot, and as he fought for the loose ball, he'd get called for the foul, much to Anthony's frustration. Arcudi and Tamani would each pick up early fouls in the first. The score would stay frozen at 4-3 for nearly 2 minutes before Pierce would try his luck again from downtown, and the Neshoba captain would collect his second three-pointer of the opening quarter, this time giving the Chieftains a 6-4 lead. We see another bizarre exchange later in the period, first with Tamani losing control, allowing for another Neshoba turnover. But as Connor Jessen travels the other way, he trips, losing the basketball, and Milford was there to pounce. Both teams would suffer multiple turnovers in the opening 8 minutes, but neither side could seem to convert those turnovers into points. With Milford trailing by just 2, they'd look to their scoring leader to make a big play with time winding down in the opening period.
The Milford fans counted out. Cosquet looking for a play. Here's Tamani. He's going to have to put up the shot to the basket. He gets it up and in. Tamani with the reverse lay-in, a pretty play.
Those 2 points from Tamani proved to be the last ones scored in the first quarter. A combination of playoff nerves and turnovers would lead to just 12 total points scored in the period. The offenses would continue to struggle during the second quarter. In the opening minute, Caden Kelly drives inside for a good look under the basket, but his shot wouldn't fall. Then it's Davila cutting across the baseline, but his attempt glances off the side of the backboard. Then with Neshoba in transition, we see a lack of execution on the pass as it drifts off toward the Milford bench. It was more turnovers than points in the first half of this quarterfinal matchup. The Chieftains would be the team to finally start to settle down as the second quarter moved along. Sophomore Connor Ocherholm makes a great block on the Tamani attempt, then gets it to Mansour, who rushes the floor before dealing the ball to Andrew Fish, who eventually emerges with the layup. With 2.5 minutes remaining, Mansour takes it away from Shane Cosquet, and then it's fellow captain Justin Pierce who finishes the other way to give Neshoba the largest lead of the half at 15-8. Milford would chip into that lead a bit with Davila putting in a long 2, but that would be all. After Milford scored 29 first-half points in Marlborough, the Hawks and Chieftains would combine for just 25 first-half points in a very unusual 2 quarters of playoff basketball. Would the Hawks finally be able to make their run as the second half got underway? Caden Kelly would get the third quarter started in a positive way as he collected just his first 2 points of the night. Kelly would come up with a big play on the defensive side a few moments later, getting position on Pierce as he went up for the shot, and Kelly would draw the offensive foul. Next up, it's Arcudi, still in search of his first points of the night. He would find them off the missed Neshoba free throw as he takes a great power move to the rim. Then keep your eye on Arcudi as he gets back on the defensive side and gets the block on Andrew Fish. Out of a timeout, Anthony would make another nifty move to the basket, putting Milford on a 6-2 run to open the second half, bringing the deficit to just a single point. It felt like momentum was finally tipping in the Scarlet Hawks' favor, but the number 1 seed would grind that momentum to a halt over the final 4.5 minutes of the third. The Chieftains would dominate the remaining period, outscoring Milford 15-0, turning a 1-point game into a 16-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. The Scarlet Hawks fans in attendance were hopeful their team had another fourth quarter comeback in them, but the Chieftains' defense was unrelenting in the closing period. Milford would end up scoring just 12 total points in the second half, with 2 of those points actually coming courtesy of Neshoba. Ultimately, the Hawks would finish the night with their lowest point total of the season in what turned out to be their final game. The effort was there, but the execution was not for the Scarlet Hawks. They would be eliminated from playoff contention, losing to the Neshoba Chieftains by a final score of 48-24.
It was a very tough night for the Hawks offense, so sadly their playoff run comes to an end in that quarterfinal round. But what a week it was for Scarlet Hawks basketball. Both teams provided the school, their families, and friends and members of the community with 3 superb playoff games. That brings an end to our game coverage for the 2016-17 winter sports season. But before we start to shift our focus towards the spring, we will take one final look at those 2 phenomenal basketball teams with full season highlight reels. Be on the lookout for those in the next few weeks here on the Milford Informer. And now let's take a look at this week's upcoming events.
Once again, we want to remind you that coming up this Saturday, the Claflin Hill Symphony Orchestra will be featuring the latest performance in their 2016-17 season. The concert is titled Seascapes, and it will once again see Claflin team up with the voices of the New World Chorale. The concert will include Symphony No. 1, A Sea Symphony, composed by Ralph Vaughan Williams, and it will also feature other pieces that celebrate the sea. The performance will take place this Saturday, March 4th, over at Upper Town Hall beginning at 7:30 p.m. For more information or to purchase last-minute tickets, log on to their website at claflinhill.org. Coming up this Wednesday, the Milford Public Schools will be holding a Kindergarten 2017 Parent Information Night and pre-registration. The event will take place at Milford High School beginning at 6 p.m. From 6 to 6:30 p.m. there will be a parent information presentation inside the high school auditorium, and from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. there will be kindergarten pre-registration and packet pickup taking place inside the high school cafeteria. There will be Portuguese, Spanish, and Arabic translators available throughout the evening. Again, the Kindergarten 2017 Parent Information Night and pre-registration will take place on Wednesday, March 8th at the Milford High School Auditorium and Cafeteria from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Milford Public Schools wants to remind residents that children must be 5 years old on or before August 31st to be eligible to attend kindergarten this fall. On March 15th, Milford TV will be teaming up with the Town Crier to host a live Selectman Forum. Candidates for both the 2-year seat and the 3-year seat for Board of Selectmen will be on hand. Each set of candidates will be asked a series of questions by Milford TV members Al Correa and Kevin Rudden. If you would like to submit a question for us to consider using during the forum, you may send questions in advance to the email address news@milfordtv.net. The live Selectman Forum will take place on Wednesday, March 15th over at Upper Town Hall beginning at 7 p.m. If you cannot attend the event, Milford TV will be broadcasting live, so you can check out our full coverage over at Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 38.
Unfortunately, due to our full sports broadcasting schedule, we've been unable to show you our latest Claflin Hill musician profile. We will finally have an opportunity to show it to you on next week's edition of The Informer, and we'll also get you ready for the latest MHS Theater Workshop production as we go behind the scenes with the cast and crew of Guys and Dolls. That is what we'll have for you next week. We hope you will join us then. In the meantime, from all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coette saying have a great week. So long, everybody.